Hello and welcome back to the channel. Thanks for joining me in another of my monologues. Not doing them every single day as I used to at the moment. Still trying to get back onto the land, onto Biggleswick Farm as often as we can, although the weather has been a little bit rubbish. But when I do the monologues, hopefully they are still useful and relevant. Now, before we get going on to today's little ditty, I just want to tell you about a couple of events that are coming up that you might be interested in attending. So get your diaries ready. The first one is the WTF event, which is normally up in Cumbria, but this year it's down just inside Wales, or on the edge of Wales, near Wrexham. And so it's going to be much easier, I think, for a lot of people because it's a little bit more central. This one is on the 17th to the 19th of July. And as you can see from the poster which I put on the screen there, you can see there's a lot of chemtrailing going on above the sky. Let's hope it's not like that on the actual day. But it is the Weekend Truth Festival, a celebration, I suppose, of people who are desperately trying to get the truth out there. And you can see that there's a great lineup of people: the Bowler Hat Farmer, Robin Hood, Mark Steele, Jack McLean, Andy Waketup, I'm not quite sure if that's the correct pronunciation, Dolores Carhill, David Edelman, Annie Barr, and many others. Rosalind Smith apparently is there, and myself will be there. At least I've been asked to be there, but I'm not actually on this particular poster because I wasn't quite sure what I was doing. But anyway, that's if you've been before, it is a great event, and if you haven't been before, why not give it a try? So that's the 17th to the 19th of July. The next event is one I've already talked a little bit about, but I just wanted to add a bit more to it because I now have the tickets link in the description, so you can go and have a look at that. It's called a special event for people serious about the protection of their property, law that is common and common law event. And there are three speakers, as you can see on here. We have Dean from Buxton, Edward Otley, and Dane de Jure. Now, it is in London. I think I mentioned before it was up in Buxton, but it's actually in London, and that's on the 24th of May. So that's coming up fairly soon. Tickets are available, and it's going to be a very interesting thing. One of the things they want to talk about and get you to understand is how to obtain trial by jury, what to do once engaged in a trial by jury, and trial with a judge, how to correctly converse with the judge. And they say that is critical. Right, well, anyway, there's some events that you might want to put into your diary, and I dare say there'll be others coming up soon. I'll keep you posted. Now, the main thing I wanted to talk about was health. And I've been, as you know, gone through a bit of a serious time with this strange muscle problem. And I've sort of hinted at it, and maybe, you know, you've seen it in the English Couple or something where we've spoken about it a bit. And it was quite debilitating, I have to say. And of course, a lot of people were saying to me, Richard, you know, you need to go to the GP, you need to go to the NHS, and you need to get fixed and get well and then go back to work. The interesting thing is, of course, when you run a YouTube channel like I do, you get a lot of correspondence, and there was a lot of people who said, actually, I've had something similar. May not be the same, but they've had something similar, and people were describing a lot of their symptoms, which was similar to what I had. And they've said things like, well, you know, I went to the GP and I was put on steroids for a long time. In fact, I was speaking to a chap the other day. His mother had some strange muscle problem which was going to work its way out, but she was on steroids for 2 years. 2 years. Now, I have been on steroids, and it's not pleasant. Do you want to see a picture of me on steroids from, I think, something like 20 years ago? Here, have a look at this. Yeah, almost unrecognisable. I was, that's me in Exeter. The video is available on YouTube if you want to see more of that hideous blown up balloon-like gentleman. I'm pleased to say that I don't look like that now, but I was on it for about 6 months, and it really mucked me up. And I didn't even know. I could look in the mirror and I didn't see how bloated it had made me do. Now, the steroids I was on cushioned my body and my whole body, And all it was for my eye, it was because I had cornea transplants, 3 of them in the end, and one of them, they stitched them on, and one of them came unstitched. Anyway, they put you on these steroids, and the whole body bloated up. It wasn't like just local. And okay, so if in my muscle condition, if they did that, then you probably need the whole body to bloat up and cushion the thing. But what I realized when I was on steroids is that I had no understanding of what my body was telling me, because it was effectively muffled. So I would run up hills. I felt I was Superman. I could do things that before I was on the steroids I could not do, and increased strength. But then I would suffer because the muscles were so relaxed and what have you when working. And then I'd pulled and I suddenly realized, oh my God, I've pulled my back. I've stressed my thighs and this, that and the other. Because you're not able really to listen to your own body. Now, this time round, I was listening to my body. I didn't want to go to the NHS. I didn't want to go to a GP, because we had an incident, didn't we, 5 years ago, where something was floating around. We were all told to stay indoors. And then by the miracle of science, the speed of science, we had this one thing and one thing only. All the other sort of remedies were said, no, that won't work. You must get injected and have this medical interference with this one thing, which a lot of people did. And of course, have since regretted, especially when it was supposed to do it. And then you've got to have, 475,000 boosters in order to make this so-called miracle drug work. Doesn't sound like a miracle drug to me. But a lot of people, of course, had some very serious adverse effects from that. And we also are aware that many of the drugs that you get dished out, the pharmaceuticals, they contain a little piece of paper usually that tells you all the different side effects. And often you'll see people who have pills to deal with those side effects. I didn't want to go down that road. I didn't want to do that. I felt it was important to trust my body, listen to my body, and of course, look for more natural, healthy remedies. And so that's what I've done. And I've met some amazing people who've been assisting me and helping me. And I have to say, whilst I'm not 100% out of it, I am so much better and feeling brilliant. And I'm so optimistic for the future. Now, I'm just talking about my situation. Your situation, of course, may be very different. And I'm not saying to anybody, immediately leap off any medication. I'm not saying that. You've got to do what you have to do and listen to whomever that you deem is important to do that. I'm just talking about my situation. But it was amazing how many people got upset with me. I was talking to a young man the other day who said, I don't understand why you're doing all this nonsense stuff with all this sort of fairy, make-believe things. Do it properly, he said. Go to your GP. Now, this young man was in his 30s, and of course he's really, I suppose, grown up in this modern world where that was the norm. I'm old enough to remember going to the GP, the family went, and they were interested in what you ate, what your lifestyle was like. Are you getting enough exercise? Are you getting some fresh air? If you go back in time, you go back to the sort of Georgians and Victorians, people convalesced, didn't they? They didn't just need a quick fix. They had to go for weeks to perhaps these solariums by the seaside, getting natural vitamin D, even was recommended a glass of seawater from the seaside. Well, back then the seas were a lot cleaner, and of course what you're getting effectively is salt water. What's the first thing they do when you go into A&E for trauma? They put you on a saline solution. So it is interesting how some of these older remedies have been mirrored and changed, but were absolutely relevant. But the thing we really, I think, need to do when we looking after our bodies, which we have for all our lives, and it's so much nicer if the body is working rather than not working, is we need to listen to it, but give ourselves time. That convalescent time, I think, is something that we forget to do. When I got ill, I didn't want to convalesce. I wanted to get back on the land as quickly as possible. But I've realised over the the biggest lesson that I've learnt, I suppose, apart from, not taking pharmaceuticals for me and looking at natural remedies which are more healthy and beneficial, not just instantly, but for the long term, is that the body needs rest. We're in this very fast world where we've got to hit targets, we've got to be at places, the clock is dominating everything. It's rush, 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 go, go, go. The stress of that, not least all the other things that we know are in the environment, with the aeroplanes spraying and the water being put up with fluoridation, and of course the EMFs all over the place. We're on the go, stressing ourselves. I'm not surprised that so many people are ill. And the thing that we forget to do is to convalesce, to take time out. And it's very difficult for people to take time out because the whole workload, the way the system is geared, is that we're not allowed to. We must keep going. We've got to keep turning up, get that job done. We need that money to pay basically the government and the taxes and everything else we've been teased into having to buy and then pay for on the Never Never. We don't have time to convalesce, to take time out, to sit and think, to meditate, to cogitate, to sit by the seaside, to absorb natural things, to walk in nature. We've forgotten so much about the very simple natural remedies for our health. And I'm so pleased that I was effectively forced to do that by deciding not to go to the NHS and have to deal with public enemy number one, and actually look to the other areas. And whilst that worked for me, it may not work for you. You may be in a completely different situation and what have you. I just want to put that onto the table, that some of these older ideas, these older remedies, these simple things are so much better, because let's face it, the body is designed to repair itself. The body wants to heal itself. The trouble is we don't give it the chance, because we're running off to the men in white coats with their pharmaceuticals, which have all these side effects, and we don't listen sufficiently to ourselves. Thank you very much for watching. I will talk to you again very soon.